There are three macros, right? Protein, fats, and carbs. And you might be tracking them, you're tracking your calories, you're training, but something's off. The fat loss has stalled, maybe around your midsection, and the culprit might be a hidden fourth macro that's wreaking havoc on your body composition. This often overlooked factor is doing more than just adding calories. It's actively interfering with your metabolism, muscle growth, and fat storage patterns. Today, we're uncovering the science behind how the fourth macro disrupts your progress and what to do about it. Welcome to Wits and Weights, the show that blends evidence and engineering to help you build smart, efficient systems to achieve your dream physique. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and today's episode comes from an important question in our Facebook community. Jerry asked about alcohol's impact on body composition beyond just calories. And it's a really good question because we are always obsessed over protein, fats, and carbs, and alcohol does act like a fourth macronutrient in some ways that might surprise you. And the truth is, most of us, myself included, have been pretty misled about alcohol's effects on our physicals especially. And if not misled, then maybe the information just isn't out there. We've heard everything from, it's no big deal as long as it fits your macros, to even unhelpful information now that can be damaging, like red wine is good for your heart. So today I'm going to break down what the evidence actually says about alcohol's impact on the things that we really care about here, fat loss, muscle gain, body composition, so you can make an informed decision. Now, before we dig into that science, I mentioned this question comes from someone in our Facebook group. If you want to connect with Jerry or anyone else who's trying to optimize their nutrition and training, they're sharing their progress, they're sharing tips, they'll answer your questions, you can get form checks, all this fun stuff, using the evidence, using good, solid training methodologies. Join our free Facebook group. Just search for Wits and Weights on Facebook or click the link in the show notes, and you will find a supportive community, like-minded people just like you, most of whom listen to this podcast and just want to help each other succeed. All right, let's start by breaking down what makes alcohol unique compared to other macros. Alcohol is definitely a macro. It has 7 calories per gram in terms of its density, its energy content. And so it sits between protein and carbs, which those have 4 calories per gram, and then fat has 9 calories per gram. So it's in between. But that's where the similarities end, okay? I don't want you to think of it as like the other macros because your body handles alcohol completely different from any other nutrient, and understanding that is really important. First, let's talk about what happens when you consume regular macros, when you consume protein, carbs, and fats. Your body can store all of those nutrients. Carbs get stored as glycogen in your muscles and liver. Fat gets stored in adipose tissue. Protein gets broken down and used to build or repair tissues. So your body has options, and it can process these nutrients at its own pace. Alcohol is a completely different story. Listen up, okay? Your body does not have a storage mechanism for alcohol. Zero. It views alcohol as a toxin that must be cleared from your system immediately. Right? And this isn't about preference. It's a biological imperative. Your liver drops everything else it is doing to deal with the alcohol first. And this metabolic priority then creates a cascade of effects that directly impact your body composition. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that alcohol suppresses fat oxidation, that means fat burning, by up to 73% for 4 to 6 hours after you drink. Think about that. For up to 6 hours after having drinks with your dinner, your body basically stops burning fat. But it gets worse because during that time, guess what happens to all the other calories you consume? All those carbs and fats that you're eating alongside your drinks or even just your regular meals, they are more likely to be stored as fat because your body's too busy dealing with the alcohol. So it's like having this traffic jam in your metabolism where everything backs up while there's one priority vehicle, alcohol. Maybe Elon Musk owns the alcohol company, I don't know, but it has priority over everything else and it gets through. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what if I account for the calories from alcohol in my daily target, right? If I should just track it, right? And that is a great question. And it leads us to the next point, because even if you could perfectly account for the calories, alcohol still affects your body composition through multiple other mechanisms that have nothing to do with calories. So let's get into that and talk about the kind of the triple threat here between muscle fat and hormones as it relates to alcohol. We're going to start with muscle protein synthesis. That is the process of building and maintaining muscle mass. You might have seen it abbreviated MPS, right? And that's all it is. It's building muscle. And there was a landmark study in PLOS 1, I never know how to pronounce it, PLOS 1, that found that alcohol consumption decreased exercise-induced muscle protein synthesis by about 24% when subjects consumed alcohol post-workout. Now, I know we're not all just like chugging down a glass of whiskey or a beer right after a workout, although I have done my share of obstacle course races in the past and got my free beer, and I could tell you that was a pleasurable experience. But still, we're not all doing that. But regardless, 24% drop in muscle protein synthesis after having a drink after exercise, like that's a huge reduction in your body's ability to do the thing that you just trained for, build and repair muscle, even when you're eating enough protein and training. Like that's crazy. So put that in perspective. Imagine you just finished a training session. You spent 90 minutes with your squats, with your deadlifts, with your all your accessories, right? And you even hit your protein target for the day. You're eating plenty and you're feeling great. Then you have a few drinks with dinner. So maybe you're training in the afternoon. Even though you did everything else right, you've just cut your potential muscle gains for that session by nearly a quarter, according to this research. And I know it depends on how often you do it, right? How much you drink and all of that, but the impact goes beyond, and I want to kind of stack on top of that. It's beyond just the protein synthesis because it also affects your hormones. It affects your testosterone levels, and as you surmise, not in a good way. Research shows that regular alcohol consumption can suppress testosterone production by up to 23% in men. And then for women, even though the impact is a little bit less dramatic, it still interferes with testosterone as well as other hormones that affect body composition. And then let's look at fat storage because it gets interesting here as well. There's research in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition that shows that regular alcohol consumption has a dose-dependent relationship with visceral fat. That is the dangerous fat around your organs, your belly fat. And men consuming more than 14 drinks per week had 30.7% more visceral fat volume compared to non-drinkers, right? And that is not just the subcutaneous fat that you can pinch. It is the deep belly fat that is associated with serious health risks. It isn't just a function of these guys gaining more weight. It is a separate variable that is very important to get into your brain. This is one of the primary reasons I've all but cut off alcohol. I admit I still have a drink every now and then. Once a month, I'll have a drink. I mean, it is so rare compared to what it used to be for many of these reasons. And then there's something that doesn't get talked about enough, how alcohol impacts your stress response. Because when you drink, your body produces more cortisol, the stress hormone. We think of alcohol as this downer, it relaxes you and everything, but it actually makes you more stress on the whole. High cortisol levels are associated then with, guess what? Increased belly fat storage and reduced muscle mass. Double, triple, quadruple whammy. I mean, you do the math. You're not just dealing with direct effects of alcohol, but then this hormonal cascade that creates an environment perfect for fat storage and muscle loss. Come on, guys. Are you getting the picture? That is not what we want, right? And I did this episode because I didn't want to say, hey, alcohol is poison, it's toxic, you shouldn't drink it. I actually wanted to come to it from the other direction of here's what it does literally to your body. If you care about these things, it's up to you how much or if you want to drink alcohol, right? That's it. I'm not coming to it from the judgment or shame perspective, but from the physiology, the anatomy, the biology perspective. All right, so what do we do with all this information, right? I'm not here to tell you never to drink again. I know that's not realistic for most people, and quite frankly, it's not necessary for the vast majority of us to achieve our goals. Oh boy, I said it. Yes, I said it. And I know I've had some guests on who've talked about total abstinence from alcohol, and that is totally an option for you. Absolutely an option. I would totally encourage that if you want to do that. But I'm talking realistic pragmatism here, and I know not everybody's going to do that. So instead, let's talk about strategic approaches to minimize alcohol's impact on your physique goals. We'll start there. And if you decide you want to totally abstain, because at the end of the day, that will get you the most benefit, that is up to you. So first, let's talk about timing. If you're going to drink, do it on rest days. Don't do it on training days. Right? If we're to believe the 24% reduction in muscle synthesis, you don't want that happening right after a good workout. Now, it's going to happen whenever you drink, so just know that on the net, it's still going to have an impact. But if you train on your, off day, that might be a little bit better than training right after you work out or on your training day. But not only that, your performance in the gym is going to suffer if you're training while your body is still processing alcohol. So don't do it on like the evening before your training day either if you train in the morning. Just be smart about it and separate it. And I see this with clients, right? They hit a great workout, a great training session on Friday, then they go out for drinks that night, and then they're like, I'm kind of weak and unmotivated on Saturday. Well, what the heck? You just had a bunch of drinks Friday night, right? It's not just in your head. Your body is literally still dealing with the metabolic aftermath of the drinks. Which, by the way, doesn't necessarily happen if you have like a massive buffet or Chinese food. Many times you go into the gym next day and you're like super energized from that. So that's why there's a difference between these things. The second is the amount, the quantity, right? We know that there's a clear dose-dependent relationship with the negative effects. And by the way, I should have put this disclaimer early on. If you struggle with alcohol, if there's alcoholism in your family or yourself or I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. It is outside my scope to deal with actually alcoholism and alcohol dependency. This episode is not for you. This is about just understanding the relationships between moderate alcohol consumption and your body, okay? So the dose-dependent relationships. So every drink that you don't have is a win for your physique. I want you to remember that. Every drink you choose not to have, so if you were going to have like 5 beers in a row, but you decide every other beer is an alcohol-free beer, count those as wins for your physique. And you might be rolling your eyes at this point thinking, okay, again, here's the lecture about never drinking again, but that's not what I'm suggesting. I want you to set some reasonable limits based on your goals. So if you're serious about body composition, I would limit yourself to 1 to 2 drinks per month. And if that sounds crazy, if that sounds extreme for you, and I've been there, I used to have a glass of wine every night, and I used to have like 5, 6 beers on the weekend. And I gradually weaned myself off and started to swap things out. So what do? Well, you start by cutting your current intake by a percentage of that, like maybe in half, and observe the changes. And then you might be surprised at how much better you feel and perform. Right? And the way I would do that is I wouldn't just say, okay, if you drink 2 drinks every day, drink 1 drink every day. I might want to drink like, half the days or something like that. But do whatever makes sense to you. One of our members in my group program, the Physique University, had some struggles with drinking. And I see this a lot, right? I see this a lot. It's like everything else starts to get dialed in and drinking still is a challenge. And so she simply moved from drinking every weekend to every other weekend. So she still accepted the fact that she wanted to go out with her girlfriends to the pub and really enjoy the craft beers, but it would be every other weekend. And the weeks where she didn't drink, she was like, holy moly, I have way better recovery. My walks feel great. I feel like just more up to doing things. My training's consistent. I'm hitting PRs. I can lose weight. My metabolism goes up. And then it kind of slides back a little bit on the weeks where she would drink. So that's what I mean by kind of alternating, to see the contrast in your own self and let that data drive you to your decision making. And then as far as the social strategies, I think that's where most people struggle the most, because it's rarely about that physical craving for alcohol, right? Or the physical hunger, whatever you want to call it. It's the social pressure. It's the habits that we built around drinking. So what do we do about that? All right. First, have a go-to non-alcoholic drink ready to go. Right? And it could be something not even in the realm of alcohol, like sparkling water with lime or a seltzer or something, not hard seltzer, but regular seltzer, diet soda, something that looks like a drink. No one questions it. You're at the party. They think it's a rum and Coke, whatever. Who cares? Not that it should matter, but I know a lot of us care. So that's where I'm starting from. And then guess what? You stay hydrated too. So it probably makes things, you could maybe have the food, you stay hydrated, you enjoy yourself. Don't get as buzzed if it's mixed in with alcoholic beverages and you're cutting down. But here's the thing. There are also lots of options with the rise of these non-alcoholic craft beverages, beers and mixed liquors and even wines. So going with a non-alcoholic beer is a great option these days. Seriously, they taste pretty good. So if you just like the ritual and the taste of beer, that alone could be enough for you to say, this is pretty close to it. I'm just not getting that buzz, but I'm also not getting all the terrible after effects and effects on my body composition later either. The second thing is you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You just don't, right? A simple like, hey, I'm good with water tonight is enough. If someone's pushing you to drink, it's more about them. It's about their relationship with alcohol, their insecurities. It's not you, right? Now, you can be strategic. You can volunteer to be the designated driver, and then, they know you can't drink. Or say, hey, I have an early morning training session. Like, that's important to me. I'm just not drinking because that. If you have to give a reason, there's a strategic way to do it. And then the third thing here is, why don't you build connections with people and activities that don't revolve around drinking? It might sound obvious, but I think it's powerful, right? Instead of meeting friends for drinks, suggest going on a hike or doing a training session together or, a lunch where you're having food but not drinks. I mean, you be the judge. And then you'd be amazed at how many people are actually relieved to have social options that don't involve alcohol. It's funny, part of my wife's family, they stay away from alcohol because there's a history there. And so when we go to parties with them, it's just, I remember early on being a little frustrated. I'm like, where's the cooler with the beers? Where's the wine? And after a couple of those, I just didn't think about it. And I would go and guess what? We have fun. It's no big deal. You enjoy it. You have diet soda. You have the cake, right? You throw the football around, whatever, and you have fun. You don't need the alcohol. So that's kind of, hopefully I didn't get too judgmental there. Hopefully that was a reasonable take on this subject. And I think if you think about alcohol and training, if you link them together, I think it's going to be helpful because we know the research shows that regular exercise changes how your body even processes alcohol. Like you actually become better at clearing it, which is not an encouragement to drink more, but it does potentially reduce the negative effects on body composition. It might explain why some like active, healthy people seem to handle alcohol better than others. And again, it doesn't mean you should drink more. It suggests that maintaining your training routine becomes even more important if you choose to drink occasionally, right? You're building a better defense system against the negative effects of really anything you put into your body. It's like having a better cleanup crew, right? Better detox crew in your body. And it explains something that I've noticed with clients over the years, that those who maintain consistent training schedules, they go to the gym, they put in the work, even if they do keep drinking moderately, right? They tend to maintain better body composition. They can lose fat. Yes, they can have a six-pack abs than those who are intermittent with their training, but strict about alcohol. Now process that. It's not that the alcohol becomes harmless. It's that the positive adaptations from regular training provide some protection against the negative effects because you're overall a healthier person on the net, which again is a good theme to remember when we talk about moderation and balance, and even when it comes to your food and your indulgences. That yes, you can have some vices in there. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. Just know the impact and also prioritize being a healthy, fit person. All right. So this episode's getting long in the tooth, but I think it's a really important topic. And I want to help you create a practical framework for managing this while pursuing your physique goals. So 3 phases I wrote down here. First one is you want to do an audit, an assessment. Take an honest look at your current habit. Just be honest with yourself, right? How many drinks per week? When do you typically drink? What triggers the desire to drink? Do not judge yourself. Just gather the data like we would with anything else we do here. It's data, tracking. Phase 2 is strategic reduction, right? This isn't going cold turkey. It's making those intentional choices that are really easy, like switching 1 drink per week to a non-alcoholic or moving your drinking days away from your training days. Phase 3 is then building the new habits, right? And this may be a little harder for some of us, but it's where things get sustainable. Find the go-to non-alcoholic drink that you identified in phase 2. Build connections that don't revolve around alcohol so you don't have as much temptation. And then create routines that don't involve drinking just in general. Things that help you relieve stress. Because a lot of you are like, well, I drink to relieve stress. There are a million ways to relieve stress that don't have super negative effects that ultimately increase your stress. And remember that one. Alcohol actually increases your cortisol. So the key to all of this is progress. Progress. It's not perfection. Every drink you don't have is a win for your physique goals. Remember that. Every time you choose water instead of wine, you're giving your body a better chance to build muscle and burn fat efficiently if that is your goal. So the fourth macro, remember that. This is the fourth macro, alcohol. It is unique, right? Especially if you're trying to be fitter and leaner and more healthy and live a long life. Understanding the mechanisms empowers you to make informed choices. It's not about complete restriction, at least not off the bat. Ultimately, if you want to do that for alcohol specifically, I don't think that's a bad idea, but it's really aligning your actions with what's important right now, right? And when you understand how alcohol affects your body at a biological level, by the way, share this episode with somebody else who needs to understand this or could maybe just doesn't know or thinks that there's something good about alcohol. Then you can make decisions that support your goals, just like anything else where we try to get more educated. And then you find that, as your physique gets better, your training progresses, guess what's going to happen? This happened to me, happens to so many people. The drinks become less appealing. You just want them less. Again, the occasional whiskey or whatever you enjoy, I still do that. I get it. But it's not because you're restricting yourself that you avoid those things. It's because you're prioritizing what really matters to you above that. All right, if you found value in today's episode, and again, you want to connect with others like Jerry on their fitness journey, join our Facebook group. Just search for Wits and Weights or click the link in the episode notes and hop on into the group once I approve you in there, which is usually pretty quickly. Share your thoughts on this episode, right? Say, hey, I found you through the alcohol episode and it was interesting and I want to continue the conversation, right? And hey, I'd love to hear your strategies for managing alcohol if that's specifically what you're looking for. But there's lots of other topics we cover in the group. So join to check those out. Until next time, keep using your wits, lifting those weights, and remember, sometimes the best gains come from what you choose not to consume. I'll talk to you next time here on the Wits and Weights podcast.